Part 40. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 391. Chapter 391 Chapter 391 I have died for you once. Suyuan signed the operation consent form with his blood-stained hand and pen, his fingers trembling slightly. When the nurse left with the consent form for the operation, this man who looked extremely noble took the nurse's hand and said in a hoarse voice, "Please save her." The nurse was shocked when she looked at the man in front of her. She had stayed in the hospital for most of her life and had seen too many people and too many life and death. She had never seen a man who looked like this. It seems like the kind of person who, if he doesn't save his lover, is likely to leave with her. How much this man loves this woman. Nurses are also women. Women all hope to meet a man who is theirs in their hearts. And this kind of man is like a rare animal. Now that I see such a man, I can't help but be moved. Don't worry, we will do our best. Suyuans watched helplessly as Mo Zhangxiang was pushed into the operation room. From the moment he entered the operating room, his heart stopped beating. It would only resume beating the moment he saw Mo Zhangxiang come out safely. When Zhang Xiao rushed to the hospital, he saw Suyuans, who looked like a sculpture, standing motionless at the operating door. He stepped forward and asked, "How is she?" Suyuans didn't speak or even move. Zhang Xiao was worried about Mo Zhangxiang, so he pushed Suyuans with his hand and said, "Let me ask you, how is she doing?" Suyuan suddenly grabbed Zhang Xiaoxi's neck, his eyes were scarlet, and he looked like a ghost crawling up from the ground. His face was ghastly and ferocious. "If she dies, I will take you to be buried with her." Zhang Xiao was pinched by Suyuans. He had difficulty breathing and his face turned the color of pig liver. He asked with difficulty, "What's wrong with her? What's wrong with her? She has already died for you once, and this time it's because of you. I really regret not killing you earlier, but keeping you until now." The viciousness in Suyuan's eyes, and that arm, the bulging veins on her neck and the force with which she pinched her neck proved that he really wanted to kill her. But why did he kill himself, and what else could it mean that Mo Zhangxiang had already died for her once? This series of questions were all swirling in Zhang Xiaoxi's mind, and he didn't even notice that it was becoming more and more difficult for him to breathe. Suyuans, let go of Xiaoxi. Zhao Huiyan forcefully opened Suyuan's hand on Zhang Xiao's neck and stared at him with cold eyes. Suyuan's didn't move at all, and he immediately broke Zhang Xiaoxi's neck without using any force. Zhao Huiyan saw Zhang Xiaoxi roll his eyes and became extremely impatient. "If you dare to kill Xiaoxi, your woman will go with her in the next second. You should know that we have this ability." Suyuans let go of Zhang Xi's neck in the next second and stared motionless at the operating room. Zhao Huiyan quickly stepped forward and hugged Zhang Xiaoxi. Zhang Xiaoxi's entire face turned the color of pig's liver, and his pupils began to slowly dilate. This completely frightened Zhao Huiyan and turned her face pale. "Doctor, the doctor is there." He hugged Zhang Xiao and went to find the doctor. Fortunately, he was still in the hospital, and soon Ryu came to rescue Zhang Xiao. The most important thing was that during the rescue process, Zhang Xiao's lower body showed a little blood. Zhao Huiyan was completely confused now. Nothing can happen to this woman, the doctor, or the child in her belly. Otherwise, I don't know if your hospital will still be there tomorrow. Doctor. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 392. Chapter 392 Hot searches for Chapter 392 Contracting for a month. Doctors focus on patients, so he just listens to what Zhao Huiyan says and doesn't take it too seriously. Regardless of whether there is a threat or not, he will do his best to save Zhang Xiao. People from the obstetrics and gynecology department and the emergency room work together to rescue Zhang Xiao. They finally rescue Zhang Xiao and put him on a ventilator. The obstetrics and gynecology doctor and the emergency room doctor walked up to Zhao Huiyan with serious expressions. Obstetrician and gynecologist, pregnant women cannot receive any stimulation, otherwise the baby will really not be saved. Emergency room doctor, the people from the security department asked you to call the police. They will copy the video content to you so that you can have evidence to sue them. I will also issue an injury report here. Zhao Huiyan put on a mask, and her forehead was covered in cold sweat from fright. Knowing that they had rescued Zhang Xiaoxiao, he almost knelt down to thank the doctor. Just a second ago, he felt that he was dead, but fortunately his ancestors had blessed him. Zhang Xiao was fine. He didn't believe in gods and Buddhas, so he decided to go back and pay his respects. Answered one by one, I will definitely not let her get out of bed until she receives any stimulation and the fetus is stable. Thank you, doctor. We know each other, and there are some misunderstandings. We will resolve them privately, but we still need to make a copy of the video. Thank you for your concern. Everyone said this, and the doctors looked at each other and went about their own business. After all, no one of them was idle, especially the emergency room. The hospital beds were tight, and Zhang Xiao could only lie in the emergency department. Zhao Huiyan wanted to help him change to a better ward, but there was no room for him, so he could only stay by the side and never leave. Xiao Xiao, wake up quickly, your fifth uncle is afraid we are already on the way to Rongcheng, and Uncle Zhao is still counting on you to say a good word to Uncle Zhao. The man on the hospital bed was wearing a ventilator, his eyes were closed, and he couldn't answer his questions. Zhao Huiyan's cell phone rang several times, but he didn't dare to pick it up. Fu Chenxiu must have sent someone to protect Zhang Xiaoxiao. Now that this kind of problem is happening, the person who protected her must have reported it, so he didn't dare to answer it. He didn't dare to answer the phone. As soon as he answered it, the low air pressure on the other end of the phone would oppress him to death, so he chose to escape. If he was a coward, he would choose to face Fu Chenxiu later. Someone would report Zhang Xiaoxi's situation anyway. Master Zhao, why don't we transfer you to another hospital? You will be easily recognized here, the manager said while wearing a mask and looking at the side carefully. Zhao Huiyan rejected the agent's proposal. He was trying not to move Jiangxi now, but no mistakes could be made. We'll talk about it in 2 days. Master Zhao, you are going to film tomorrow. Are you still asking for leave? The agent asked desperately. The look Zhao Huiyan gave him reflected what the situation was now. Shouldn't he stay? The agent's eyes almost fell. Mr. Zhao, don't you know it's all your news now? Do you really want to stay on the hot search list for a month? Well, let's contract the hot search for a month first. Zhao Huiyan said it nonchalantly, and the manager fainted on the spot. The doctors and nurses nearby came to the rescue immediately, and they occupied 2 beds in the already crowded emergency room. As soon as the doctor took off the agent's mask, the entire emergency room was covered by the scream of a little girl. Ah! It's Zhao Huiyan's agent. Ah! I actually saw Zhao Huiyan in person. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 393. Chapter 393. Chapter 393. The agent is a joke. The little girl's screams attracted many peers. The characteristic of star-chasing girls is that they will recognize their idols no matter what they wear. Not to mention, Zhao Huiyan, a star with such high national popularity, will go wherever she goes. It will cause a sensation, and it will be eaten by children as young as 80 and as young as 8. Now suddenly appearing in the hospital, fans are not crazy. You can tell how popular they are just by hearing the little girls scream. The manager, who was originally fainted, jumped up from the ground when he heard the girl's scream. Stood in front of Zhao Huiyan, and said reflexively, "Master Zhao, go quickly." The doctor who rescued him. Crazy female fans. Zhao Huiyan held her forehead with one hand and looked at her idiot agent silently. He had to seriously consider whether to change his agent. "Best actor Zhao, can you sign your autograph for me?" The girl looked at Zhao Huiyan with her face filled with excitement as she hung the bottle in her hand. "Yes, but if you can be in a position that is not exposed, I think I would like to take a photo with you." Zhao Huiyan was wearing a mask, and her peach blossom eyes were shining at the little girl. The little girl immediately covered her mouth, but it was too late. Many fans had already gathered around her, filling the emergency room with water. "Best actor Zhao, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it." The little girl looked at Zhao Huiyan with red eyes and an apologetic face. When she saw her idol, I'm afraid no one could help but scream. Zhao Huiyan knew that she couldn't escape. After looking at the eyes of the doctors and nurses in the emergency room, she decided to come up with a solution and asked her agent to take good care of Zhang Xiaoxi. Zhao Huiyan came out of the emergency room and took off her mask. Her good looks made the female fans scream louder than the others, and the hospital almost turned into a small meet and greet. "Best actor Zhao, we love you. Huiyan, we are your eternal pollen." Su Zhao Huiyan put her finger to her lips and made a silent gesture. Female fans almost fainted on the spot. "It's so flirty, you deserve to be my oppa. You're so handsome. If anyone tries to troll my Huahua in the future, if you don't look enough at his pictures, I'll immediately kill him. My Huahua has such a divine appearance that there are no pores on his face. My idol doesn't want to get good traffic, he has to prove himself with his strength. Facts have proved that he can do both. This is a hospital. I can't cause any trouble to the hospital. We have completely caused trouble to the emergency department, so if you want to sign autographs or take a group photo, we can take a big group photo now. Please leave your address. I send it to you." Zhao Huiyan spoke softly and her peach blossom eyes fascinated fans. "Yes," fans responded collectively. Zhao Huiyan asked the little girl to take photos of them, and then came down to take a group photo with the little girl alone. Then he asked the little girl to keep their contact information and give it to him when the time came. He persuaded these fans to leave, and Zhao Huiyan had to transfer to another hospital. When he was transferred to another hospital, he still called Guanyang and asked an authoritative expert from this hospital to go with him, just because he was afraid that something might happen to Zhang Xiao on the way. There is no doubt that Zhao Huiyan was scolded by Guanyang and told that he was waiting to be dealt with. #Zayingdi agent #value counting of Zayingdinyuangzain Zhao Huiyan's agent has given up struggling after seeing the hot search and has become a Buddhist. With such an old man, his heart must be strengthened. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 394. Chapter 394. Chapter 394. What is your relationship with Su Yuan's? Zhao Huiyan's agent has the highest number of hot searches and reads, especially the moment when he fainted, then suddenly woke up, and subconsciously protected Zhao Huiyan. It was made into animated pictures and various emoticons. The comments from netizens are all: "The agent is so cute. It's so difficult for us little fat guy, even if we faint, we don't forget to protect our own artists. This animated picture has made me laugh this year." The company naturally saw this news, and also released many previous interactions between agents and Zhao Huiyan, edited at home by fans. Zhao Huiyan's popularity cannot be reduced for the time being. He said he would contract for a month of hot searches, but he really needed to contract for a month of hot searches. The manager put the phone back into his pocket. "Master Zhao, no photos from your childhood have been released. Fans only care about whether you are injured." What Zhao Huiyan was most afraid of was that someone would leak Zhang Shishi's information. The people in the hospital asked Guanyang to help deal with it. Fortunately, Xiaopang fainted, and it could be said that he came to see the doctor through his agent. Master Zhao, would you like me to post on Weibo to make it clear that I am sick? The agent suggested. The manager felt like it and posted a picture of himself taking medicine on Weibo. Along with the picture, you need to take some dolly pills to protect Hua. As soon as the agent posted on Weibo, no one would care about Zhang Xiaoxi. Zhang Xiao fell into a coma for a few hours. When he woke up, the first thing he did was to ask, "My sister, is she okay?" "It's okay, Xiao Xiao, you have to lie down properly, the egg yolk in your stomach is unstable." Zhao Huiyan comforted Zhang Xiao nervously. "Uncle Zhao, what happened to the child in my belly?" Zhang Xiao covered his lower abdomen with his hands, his face was pale, his heart was high, and he was extremely nervous. "There are some signs of miscarriage. You have to lie down quietly now and don't run around. There are still hours. I'm afraid your fifth uncle will be here in a while. Please protect Uncle Zhao." Zhao Huiyan looked at Zhang Xiao bitterly. Zhang Xiao nodded. She knew what happened. Now that she was answering herself again, she didn't know how long she could stay. "Uncle Zhao, it's my own fault and has nothing to do with you. Xiao Xiao, it was Uncle Zhao who failed to protect you." Uncle Zhao admits his mistake, but can you tell Uncle Zhao what happened between you and that Su Yuan's? Zhao Huiyan also had doubts in her heart. The conversation between Su Yuan's and Zhang Xiao was really, make people unable to understand. He had watched Zhang Xiao grow up. He only had a few friends around him and had never met Su Yuan's. It was completely incomprehensible that there was so much hatred coming from him and he actually wanted to kill Zhang Xiao. Zhang Xiao's eyelashes were slightly drooped, and the thick eyelashes blocked the emotions in the dark eyes. He pursed his lips and said, "Uncle Zhao, don't pry, and don't tell fifth uncle, okay?" Zhao Huiyan half squinted her eyes and stared at Zhang Xiaoxi, the wrinkles between her eyebrows obvious. "Xiao Xiao, do you think your fifth uncle doesn't know? You almost lost your life just now. Your fifth uncle will definitely investigate your relationship with Su Yuan's. You'd better answer honestly. Your fifth uncle will definitely not let Su Yuan's go. Uncle Zhao, please help me, don't hurt Su Yuan's." Zhang Xiao looked at Zhao Huiyan with pleading eyes. "Child, do you think Uncle Zhao has this ability and can you persuade your fifth uncle?" End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 395. Chapter 395. Chapter 395. Boss, don't slap me in the face. The corner of Zhang Xiao's mouth turned white because she knew that what Zhao Huiyan said was the truth. He could not persuade Fu Chenxiu. Fu Chenxiu would definitely pursue this matter. No one could persuade him unless he gave up on his own. "When I was young, tell Uncle Zhao now why he wanted to kill you, and why he said that Mo Zhangxiang died for you once. Only after you tell me all this can I think of a way to persuade your fifth uncle." Zhao Huiyan. He looked at Zhang Shi with a serious expression. Zhang Xiao shook his head with tears in his eyes and said emotionally, "Uncle Zhao, I really owe Mo Zhangxiang my life. As for Su Yuan's, he is not important." "Sir, don't get excited." Zhao Huiyan was still comforting Zhang Xiao when the door was violently pushed open from the outside, and then a man came in with a cold wind. His face was cold and tense, and his deep and cold eyes fell directly on someone on the hospital bed. Zhang Xiao's face was pale, his eyes were filled with tears, and he shrank his neck in fear. Fu Chenxiu walked to someone's hospital bed with long legs. His eyes were bloodshot, as if he wanted to bite Zhang Xiao to eat. He gritted his back teeth and said, "How did you promise me before you left?" Zhang Xiao lowered his eyes and buried his head. Tears fell one by one and he remained silent. The way Fu Chenxiu looked at her, his temples twitched. "I told you that I would lock you up if you disobeyed me. Do you just want me to lock you up now?" Zhang Xiao cried even harder, and his thin shoulders shook violently. The doctor warned Zhao Huiyan not to let Zhang get too excited when he was young, otherwise he would miscarry. Xiao Xiao, don't cry, lie down quickly, your fifth uncle won't lock you up, don't get excited, think about your stomach for the baby inside, the doctor said you can't be excited, it's not good for the baby. Zhang Xiao lay down convulsively, but he never dared to look at Fu Chenxiu, out of fear. Fu Chenxiu's stern face was frighteningly tight. He didn't say anything about Zhang Xiao, but the aura on his body made the whole ward feel depressed. Boss, don't talk about it. When she was little it was me who didn't take good care of her. Zhao Huiyan directed Fu Chenxiu's anger towards herself. Fu Chenxiu stared at Zhao Huiyan with cold eyes and walked out. Zhao Huiyan followed her immediately. As she walked past the agent, she whispered, "Prepare a bottle of safflower oil for me, the kind that has a better effect of activating blood circulation and removing blood clots." Agent. Zhao Huiyan followed Fu Chenxiu to a relatively remote place. As soon as he stood up, Fu Chenxiu swept over with a punch. "Boss, if you don't want to be slapped in the face, you still have to film," Zhao Huiyan said while hiding. Fu Chenxiu frowned and continued. Half an hour later, Zhao Huiyan sat on the ground with a grin on her face. She really didn't have any injuries on her face. "Boss, Xiao Xiao, if you don't want to say it, don't force her. The doctor said she needs to rest." Fu Chenxiu's face was gloomy. Zhao Huiyan had just told him what happened. His fists were clenched, his joints were protruding, and his jawline was tightly stretched. "Boss, you're really scared to death with your appearance. If you still don't feel relieved, we can have a fight." Zhao Huiyan was really willing to fight. Fu Chenxiu snorted coldly and left. Zhao Huiyan got up from the ground with pain all over her body. She had to investigate Su Yuan's matter clearly, so she took out her cell phone and called in Nangxuan. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 396. Chapter 396. Chapter 396. Disheveled. And Nangxuan was holding Chu Hanyu with one hand and answering the phone with the other. "What's the matter at home?" "Well, go and find out how Su Yuan's and I met when we were young. If not, ask your Niuniu." Zhao Huiyan frowned and said. "Who is from his family?" "Uncle Zhao can't talk nonsense. My surname is Chu, not An." Chu Hanyu yelled into the phone. "Zhao Huiyan." And Nangxuan's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. "Niuniu, you happen to be here, do you know Su Yuan's?" "How did you know him when you were a child?" Zhao Huiyan had no time to care about what happened to these two people. "I won't tell you." Chu Hanyu was still struggling to get out of An Nangxuan's arms. "Niuniu, this matter is related to my life. If you know, you'd better tell me." Zhao Huiyan knew that each of the two little ancestors was more difficult to deal with than the other. When Chu Hanyu heard that it was related to Zhang Xiaoxi, his expression immediately changed. He grabbed the phone and said, "Uncle Zhao, Su Yuan's." "Well, do you know him?" Zhao Huiyan asked. "I haven't heard from Xiao Xiao, Uncle Zhao. What will happen to Xiao Xiao?" Chu Hanyu knew that Zhang Xiao was going to Rongcheng to investigate the matter at Mo's house. Could it be that something happened? "Give me the phone to Uncle An, and I'll have a few words with him." Zhao Huiyan was not prepared to say too much to Chu Hanyu. If he spoke too much, he was afraid that the little ancestor would cause more trouble. Chu Hanyu gave the phone to An Nangxuan. This time he stopped struggling. With his eyes wide open and his ears perked up, he leaned over to listen to the conversation between them. And Nangxuan stood up and refused to let her listen. Chu Hanyu stared at him and followed him eagerly. And Nangxuan locked the door and locked Chu Hanyu in the room. "Chu Hanyu. What happened?" And Nangxuan asked, leaning against the doorframe. Su Yuan's almost killed Xiao Xiao. What is his background? Ask Xiao Wu to check it out. I always feel that I have seen that kid there, but I can't remember it. Zhao Huiyan is very familiar with the entertainment industry, and is familiar with the rest of them. Much more familiar than him. That lunatic from the Su family in Nangsuan had this person in mind when Zhao Huiyan asked him for the first time. There was only one person named Su in Ruchan. Aren't you talking about the grandson of that old man Su Hu? Zhao Huiyan doesn't know Su Yuan's, but she knows Su Hu, who is as famous as Mr. Fu and others. Mr. Fu and others may be a little softer, but this Su Hu can be said to be a hard-hearted man, has many sons, and they all survive through the process of survival of the fittest. Well, I'll check it out for you later. And Nangsuan frowned with a headache, not because of Zhang Xiaoxiu's matter, but because of Chu Hanyu, who kept knocking on the door. And Xiaoxian, if you don't open the door, I will jump off the stairs. Chu Hanyu didn't hear the call and was still locked up here. His temper was extremely bad. And Nangsuan pressed his temple with one hand and opened the door. Sure enough, someone had climbed onto the windowsill. He pulled him down from the windowsill with a single step. His temples were beating hard, and he hit someone on the small of the heart with his hand. On the butt. Chu Hanyu, you are really getting more and more courageous. And Nangsuan, you actually hit me. My parents have never hit me. Why do you hit me? Chu Hanyu faced the ground and resisted with bloodshot face. And Nangsuan's blood pressure was a little high when he thought of someone coming out of the hotel disheveled. He hit her hard several times without losing strength. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 397. Chapter 397. Chapter 397. I will marry you. Tell me, who are you going to the hotel with? Does it have anything to do with you? And I'm an adult now. I can take responsibility for my own life, Chu Hanyu replied with a bad temper. And Nangsuan felt like his blood vessels were going to burst, and he was so angry. What does it mean to be an adult and be responsible for your own life? What kind of responsibility do you have? The girl with no hair on her head said in a calm voice, suppressing her anger, is she the same as Chen Baiking, Mengo? I told you, it has nothing to do with you. And Nangsuan, why are you so interesting? You still want to take care of me after breaking off the engagement. Is there something wrong with your mind? And Nangsuan frowned, his face as dark as the bottom of a pot. Chu Hanyu hated him for being like this and frowned. Don't you just want to know who I went to the hotel with? Well, let me tell you, Chen Baiking and I went to bed. What about the result? Are you satisfied? The veins on Nangsuan's forehead were stretched out, his pupils were bloodshot, and his face was sinister. The energy and blood in his body suddenly changed. His voice was cold and high. Chu Hanyu, who gave you the courage to sleep with a man? Are you sleeping? Chu Hanyu's little body trembled. He had liked Nangsuan for so many years and knew the changes in his aura very well. He knew that he was angry, but so what? There was no future between them, but Chen Baiking, that man. Chu Hanyu, do you think that if your family can't control you, then no one will dare to control you? How old are you? How dare you, how dare you? And Nangsuan stared at Chu Hanyu coldly, lifeless. It was as if Chu Hanyu was going to be skinned and beaten. Chu Hanyu struggled to stand up from his arms, unbuttoned the collar of his shirt, and exposed his swan-like neck with spots on it. The stool next to Chu Hanyu fell apart in an instant. And Nangsuan's elegant face was quite ferocious. She felt that the blood in her heart had surged to her throat. All her rationality was about to collapse in an instant. She felt the marks on her neck. Extremely annoying, with a cruel voice, Chu Hanyu, do you want me to deal with you? Well. Chu Hanyu's face turned pale, biting his lip, staring at him with a mottled look. How do you want to deal with me? and Nangsuan directly pushed Chu Hanyu onto the bed. His body. Next, those scarlet eyes were staring at her, only 1 meter away from her. They could feel each other's heat when breathing, gritting their teeth. How to deal with you so that you will never see Chen Biking and get married. Chu Hanyu's mind went blank. His head was stuck for a moment, and it kept buzzing. He actually said, that he wanted to marry her. After Nangsuan finished speaking, he approached Chu Hanyu's neck and covered it with those stains. The coldness on her neck made Chu Hanyu's tears fall from the corners of her eyes, and she pushed Nangsuan away. It was really ironic that he actually said he wanted to marry her now. After breaking off the engagement with her, when she had slowly started to let go of him, when she was learning to love a man who loved her, he said he wanted to marry her. Was it love? She didn't see any love in his eyes, only anger. He just wanted to have an upright identity to control himself. Chu Hanyu curled his lips in a mocking manner, his eyes cold. I won't marry you, Nangsuan. You can only marry me, Chen Biking, you'd better not think about it. Nangsuan bit her cheek and said decisively, as if to inform her. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 398. Chapter 398. Chapter 398. I have wine, do you have a story? Chu Hanyu stared at Nangsuan quietly for tens of seconds, then said lightly, Nangsuan, if you don't love me, I don't want to marry you. This sentence contains too many emotions, including her 10 years of feelings for Nangsuan, her heartbreak of despair, and her heart of learning to let go. The person who loves you will always have you in his heart, will tolerate everything about you, and will take care of everything about you. Your little emotions will be a big deal in his eyes. It's not like Nangsuan. He really has no love for her, and she can't see it. Nangsuan frowned and stared at Chu Han's words. Although he didn't like the little girl, he would never see her jump into the fire pit. Chen Biking was definitely not a man who could be entrusted with his life. He watched the little girl act randomly on her own. Then it is better to keep her by his side and watch her. Only the man who can stand up to him in the future can let this little girl go. This matter is not up to you to decide. I will go find your grandfather. As for Chen Biking, don't even think about meeting and talking to him. I will send someone to follow you every step of the way. Nangsuan said his decision cruelly. Chu Hanyu never expected that Nangsuan would have the same personality as Fu Xiu. He actually wanted to control her freedom in life. This was something she couldn't accept. Nangsuan, are you crazy? I'm crazy or not, I know it myself, just take this. Taking advantage of Chu Hanyu's distracted moment, Nangsuan threw the medicine in his hand into her mouth and gave her a glass of water. When Chu Hanyu reacted, he immediately began to vomit wildly. He dug his hands into his throat to induce vomiting. He retched with tears in his eyes. He glared at Nangsuan angrily and shouted, "What did you give me to eat?" "Contraceptive pills," Nangsuan said coldly with a stern face. Chu Hanyu's pupils were dilated. He was so angry that he was furiously picking at his throat, trying to spit out the medicine. Nangsuan's cold voice sounded again, "It's useless. This medicine will dissolve immediately when it meets water, and you won't be able to spit it out." Chu Hanyu simply stopped embarrassing himself. His eyes were red and his face was pale as he stared at Nangsuan. His tone was as cold as a stranger's, "Can I go?" Nangsuan squinted his eyes, his brows were furrowed, and his eyes looking at Chu Hanyu became colder and colder. "Why do you want to break up with me now? We have nothing to do with each other, right? If our family were not aristocratic, you and I would be strangers." Chu Hanyu walked past Nangsuan and walked to the door. "Finally, I said, Nangsuan, don't let our relationship be worse than strangers." Nangsuan clenched his hands into fists, and the veins on them were beating in an arc. Chu Hanyu didn't know how she left Nangsuan's home. The only love in her heart completely disappeared when she left An Nangsuan's home. When Chen Baiking found Chu Hanyu, the little girl was sitting on the road crying sadly, her heart hurting terribly as if it was being torn apart. She took out the beer in the trunk, walked towards Chu Hanyu, and took off her down jacket. He put it on her body, opened a can of beer and handed it to her, and said with a smile, "Miss, I have wine but a story. Are you willing to tell me?" Chu Hanyu raised his eyes to look at Chen Baiking with red and swollen eyes, took the wine in his hand, and said in a hoarse voice, "My story is a bit long, can you hear the end?" "Of course, I will tell the story to the end." Chen Baiking clinked the wine glasses with her. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 399. Chapter 399. Chapter 399. Feeling confident. Chu Hanyu drank wine and began to tell Chen Baiking about his secret love for An Nangsuan, sometimes crying and sometimes laughing, until there were more and more beer cans at his feet, and his head rested on Chen Baiking's shoulder. Chen Baiking let her lean against him. The cold wind in Ruchen in January was blowing very cold. A handsome man sat with a woman on the side of the road for a long time, and let netizens take photos. Zhao Huiyan called An Nangsuan and also called Yi Changji. If it was Su Hu's grandson, Yi Changji would investigate faster. When he returned to the ward, the atmosphere in the ward could be said to be oppressive and breathless. "Come on," he just told Fu Chenxai, "what happened, why is the atmosphere still like this?" He pulled the economic man and asked, "How did this come about?" The manager lowered his voice and whispered in Zhao Huiyan's ear, "If one of them doesn't go back, the other one must go back." Zhao Huiyan. Zhang Xiaoxiao had obviously promised him that he would go back tomorrow. Why did he change his mind now? Look at the stiff atmosphere. There's no point in being stubborn with me. You have to go back with me. Fu Chenxiao's voice was so cold that it was freezing. Zhang Xiaoxiao's face was pale, but his eyes were firm as he answered Fu Chenxiao, "I won't go back. The doctor said I need to rest. Uncle Wu, if you force me like this, I will feel uncomfortable." Fu Chenxiao gritted his teeth and wanted to beat someone. She had to rely on herself now, so she couldn't do anything about it, right? She had to control him tightly. "Do you want me to find Guan Yang?" Zhang Xiao shrank his head under the quilt with a guilty conscience. "The child is in my belly. Only I know whether it feels comfortable or not. It's useless for you to call the official uncle." Fu Chenxiao's face was gloomy. She had become more courageous, but now there was nothing he could do to her. "Go home and don't make me angry. Don't let me get pregnant if you don't go home." Zhang Xiao simply lay down to sleep, confident that someone would not dare to touch her. Fu Chenxiao. Zhao Huiyan. Zhang Xiaoxi dared to talk to Fu Chenxiao like this, which really frightened him. This girl used to meet someone like a mouse meeting a cat. Now that she has a golden egg, she is bolder. "Zhang Xiaoxiao, you have the guts." Fu Chenxiao finally said this when someone made him angry. Zhao Huiyan almost laughed on the spot, and Fu Chenxiao was stunned. This was the first time in history. Fu Chenxiao didn't leave even when he was angry. Luo Yi came over on Fu Chenxiao's next flight, brought all the documents that needed to be processed, and started working temporarily in Zhang Shishi's ward. Zhang Shishi became hungry in the middle, so Zhao Huiyan asked his assistant, "I went to buy a lot of food." After eating and drinking enough, Zhang fell asleep soundly. Luo Yi looked at Zhang Xiao, who was sleeping sweetly, and his tense nerves relaxed. Thinking of Fu Chenxiao's expression when he left, he was afraid that Zhao Huiyan would not see the sun tomorrow. "Fifth Master, all the work that needs to be done is here. Can I ask you for 2 hours of leave?" Fu Chenxiao didn't even raise his eyelids, Go and see Mo Zhangxiang. Yes, Luo Yi also learned about Mo Zhangxiang's injury on the plane. He heard that there was a man guarding her. The man did not allow anyone except the doctor to touch Mo Zhangxiang. His beloved disciple was injured, so naturally he was want to see her. Fu Chenxiao nodded and agreed for him to go. Luo Yi rushed to Mo Zhangxiang's ward. Mo Zhangxiang just woke up and saw his crooked eyebrows. Master, you are here. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 400. Chapter 400. Chapter 400. Not such an impatient person. Luo Yiren was stopped by Su Yuan's before he walked into Mo Zhangxiang. He searched him before letting him get close to Mo Zhangxiang. Luo Yi. Mo Zhangxiang. Su Yuan's is now surrounded by soldiers, and he is still afraid that Mo Zhangxiang will be harmed. Luo Yi didn't pay much attention to Su Yuan's. He walked to Mo Zhangxiang's bed and asked with a worried look, "Are you okay?" Mo Zhangxiang smiled palely, "It's okay, master, why are you here?" "I was injured when I was young. I followed the fifth master here. I heard that you had an accident on the plane, so naturally I wanted to see you." Luo Yi looked at her. Mo Zhangxiang's heart suddenly twitched. She had not escaped from the Mo Zhuiyuan faction, nor had Zhang Xiao. "Master, is Xiao Xiao seriously injured? Are you in this hospital?" Mo Zhangxiang suddenly wanted to stand up and see Zhang Xiao. As soon as the man moved, a threatening voice sounded next to him. "Momo, if you dare to get up, I will kill Mo Zhuiyuan immediately, take back all the Mo family's things for you, and follow you every step of the way. Please think carefully." Su Yuan stared at her with sharp eyes. "Mo Zhangxiang. She's fine, you'd better lie down." Luo Yi comforted her and lay back. "You are from the Mo family. You have always known it, so why didn't you tell us at first?" "Master, it's not like you don't know the situation of the Mo family." Luo Yi frowned and said, "You are not a rash person. The time has not come for you to break up with the Mo family. Why are you in such a hurry?" Mo Zhangxiang bit her lip. She was not sure whether Luo Yi knew about her relationship with Zhang Xiaoxi. She was also considering whether to tell her, and was a little hesitant. "Who are you for?" Mo Zhangxiang can be said to have been brought out by him. He is definitely the kind of person who is calm. He has a delicate mind and will definitely not be so rash. Mo Zhangxiang was silent for a while, and finally decided not to worry. Luo Yi followed Fu Chenxiao. Sooner or later, he would know about her relationship with Zhang Xiaoxi, and there was nothing to hide. "Master, Xiaoxi is my sister, dear, I tell you Mo Zhuiyuan, I am the only one who survived. So you want to take care of everything yourself?" Yes, Xiao Xiao was obviously taken back by the president, so why did she suddenly return to Chengdu? This surprised me. If Zhang Xiao had not come to find her, Xiao Xiao would not have been hurt. "You don't know me too well. If she knows about your relationship, she won't just wait for you to handle the matter," Luo Yi said. "Master, is there any way you can tell me not to worry about the Mo family's affairs? I can take care of it myself." Luo Yi shook his head. "When I was a child, the fifth master had no way to deal with her. He could only pamper her, so there was no other way. She would definitely deal with Mo Zhuiyuan." Mo Zhangxiang looked at Luo Yi worriedly and suggested, "Master, let the president kidnap her home." Luo Yi. "Okay, you can take good care of yourself. If you need any help, call me." Luo Yi glanced at Su Yuan's before leaving, thinking that there might not be anything needed. Luo Yi returned to Zhang Shishi's ward and told Fu Chenxiao what he learned about the situation from Mo Zhangxiang. "Well, I know. Luo Yi. His information has been so blocked." "Have you seen the man next to her clearly?" Fu Chenxiao raised his eyes and asked. End of this chapter.